It is completely unacceptable to have non-citizens on American voter rolls voting in U.S. elections. And she says it's 6,600. We suspect it's a heck of a lot more, not just in New Jersey, but in states across the country. The president is hell-bent on getting to the bottom of this, and it's also why we need to pass the Save America Act to ensure that only U.S. citizens are voting in U.S. elections.
That was White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday during a White House press briefing. Welcome back to the States. I'm Greg Bishop. Last week, the Trump administration released documents surrounding China's involvement in the 2020 election, describing it as, quote, the largest compromise of election data in history, adding that it led to China's illicit acquisition of 220 million U.S. voter files. Now, the Department of Homeland Security released information on other election integrity issues, including how many non-citizens are illegally registered to vote in federal elections across the U.S. DHS says there's over 250,000 of them. And they say that state election officials in California, Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, Nevada, and they've been notified of the serious threat to national security, and that DHS stands ready to support their efforts to identify and remove ineligible voters. DHS said the investigation's expanding to include multiple additional states. Now, DHS also announced last week that other states have been more proactive in working with the federal government to secure voter rolls. They showed a graphic saying that Georgia had 42,000 dead voters and 2,500 non-citizens on their rolls. Texas had over 111,000, that is. And that's deceased people and over 2,200 non-citizens. North Carolina, the executive director of the State Board of Elections, said that each of the 1,600 non-citizens registered to vote in North Carolina will be subject to state and federal law and afforded due process prior to potential removal. There were also deceased and non-citizens found on voter rolls in Ohio, Tennessee, Idaho, Alabama, Missouri, Louisiana, and Kansas. Now, in New Jersey, one of the states that the DHS targeted as having some of more than 200,000 non-citizen voters on their rolls, their governor, Mickey Sherrill, facing pressure from Republican legislative leaders and federal law enforcement officers to provide more details of the more than 6,000 non-citizens that were allowed to register to vote in that state. Tuesday, the governor said that a state investigation revealed between June 2023 and 2024, about 6,600 people indicated that they were applying for a state driver's license or identification card and that they were not U.S. citizens. They went on to say that last week I learned a serious software error in New Jersey's motor vehicle system led to the registration of more than nearly 6,600 people, indicated that they were not U.S. citizens. These individuals answered no when asked on a keypad whether they were a U.S. citizen when applying for a driver's license and identification cards, but through no fault of their own, she said, the system registered them to vote anyways. And this is part of a process that some have criticized for years of states and their various motor vehicle departments allowing for these types of processes to occur, and that could possibly lead to non-citizens getting voter registration. Now, at least 400 of the erroneously registered non-citizens cast ballots in elections during those years, according to the governor. Now, at the White House Thursday, Caroline Leavitt said it's not just New Jersey where the problem is continuing to happen.
What I will say on New Jersey and this governor, the fact that she just all of a sudden decided to put out a press release saying President Trump and Republicans have been right about non-citizens on our voting rolls is not a coincidence. I think this governor is saying this because she realizes this administration is serious about getting to the bottom of illegal aliens voting and being on our voter rolls in our country. The Secretary of Homeland Security, as you know, sent a letter to several states, including New Jersey, requesting that non-citizens that are on their voter rolls need to be reported to DHS and need to be removed from those voter rolls. So that's why all of a sudden she is speaking truth about the fact that this does take place in states across the country.
Now, with the issue of automatic voter registration, which several states implement, allowing for somebody who is interacting with state governments to automatically be registered to vote, It was all in an effort to try to increase voter participation. But as you can see in some of these areas, like New Jersey, admitting that their systems did not catch non-citizens from being registered to vote, even if it was no fault of their own. Could this issue be popping up in other states across the country, and just how impactful is it on election integrity? A question we'll be watching. Meanwhile, Republicans in the U.S. House, they attached the Save America Act to require voter ID in federal elections to a budget resolution worth $95 billion. Now, the bill narrowly passed this week. It funds $73 billion for federal taxpayer dollars to go to the U.S.-Iran conflict, and then $12 billion to implement the voter ID bill. You can get the latest on this developing story at thecentersquare.com.